I'm going to introduce our first speaker. Tony Orta is the Strategy and Compliance Manager for Sempra Energy Utilities and has over 30 years of fleet experience. In addition to vehicle remarketing and utilization strategies for Southern California Gas Company, he manages over 5,000 fleet vehicles and equipment, of which 4,000 are over the road. More than 923% of the fleet are alternative fueled vehicles operating on clean burning natural gas. Mr. Orta also manages both SCG and San Diego Gas and Electric maintenance operations, quality assurance, and environmental compliance programs. Currently, he is leading SCG initiative to place 1,000 natural gas vehicles in the next few years. So let's welcome Mr. Tony Orta.
Thank you. All right. Well, hello everybody. Welcome. As Kurt mentioned, I have a couple years experience in this business, and one of the things that I find that seems to come up over and over again, regardless of the technology, regardless of all the various challenges of fueling and infrastructure, it's always comes back to the same thing, and that's people. It's about connecting with people. It's about getting people to understand the importance of why we do what we do and why it's so important to embrace alternative fuels. In this case, specifically natural gas. So I'm going to try to show you a few slides, just tell our story at SoCal Gas, and hopefully anybody that has any questions afterwards, we can talk a little bit more about it. Our company is a pretty decent sized company. As a gas utility goes, we seem to stack up pretty well across the country. So we have a big responsibility to lead in this arena. As a natural gas company, I think we want to support natural gas powered vehicles. It makes sense, right? Our fleet makeup, as you'll see on the screen here, we have about 4,300 over-the-road vehicles, various makeups. Primarily, the utility is a light and medium-duty fleet. That's where we get most of our vehicles on the road. We have some heavy-duty, technically what they're called heavy-duty. Our 26,000 GVW vehicle, for example, is in the medium-duty category. But you can see we have a few vehicles to play with in terms of opportunities for natural gas. Of that breakdown of those over-the-road vehicles, you can see we have a good number of biofuel vehicles as well as dedicated vehicles, which come to about 23% of our over-the-road fleet. That number is not where we'd like it to be, and now with the OEM stepping up and with the aftermarket conversion companies starting to come to the forefront, it's going to make it a little more it's going to make it easier for us to really increase those numbers, which is what our goal is. As Kurt mentioned, we want to bring in 1,000 natural gas vehicles over the next few years into the fleet. A lot of that's going to require education of the end user, but also to convince management that it's worth the investment. In our company, it's very well understood that it is worth the investment. Here's an example of a vehicle that's in our fleet. This happens to be a utility body truck, and this truck has turned out to be quite popular in our fleet. We still have room for more opportunities to put these vehicles in our fleet, but this is a really good example of collaboration with the OEM, with the body company, and with the natural gas conversion people. One of the things that we find is you can't move forward in this arena until you take that step yourself as a company to show and lead by example. And this is an example of where we're showing some success. Here's just a breakdown of what we're trying to do, and I won't go into detail, but we consume about 3.5 million gallons of fuel a year, and that's a great opportunity to displace that gasoline product with natural gas. Not to mention the fact that it's cheaper, but it's also, as you'll hear over and over, clean burning, and it's readily available. Here's another example, and this is the truck I was talking about. This actually is not a 26, it's actually I think a 30,000 GVW, but we're now building this particular model in a 26,000 GVW. This is our distribution crew truck. This goes out in the road, and it has actually, this one has attach a detachable backhoe in the back for making those small trenches where they need to get in to do repair on pipes. But this has worked out really well for us. It's a dedicated natural gas. It has plenty of range, and the primary focus on this truck is really not so much the driving distance as it is the operating hours, as it operates the compressor or the backhoe, things of that nature. Just some examples of some of the products and projects we've been involved with. Well, everybody's heard about Honda, and we have some of those in our fleet for sure. Although our fleet doesn't have a large number of passenger vehicles, we've taken advantage of that product where it makes sense. We also have some of the GM OEM express cargo vans in our fleet. We've also got the new Chrysler 4x4 crew cab that came out just recently. So we're trying to walk the talk and incorporate these products into our fleet. Now you might say, well, that's kind of a diverse profile. Some fleets like to go with one manufacturer, but I would tell you that anybody that says they can standardize on one manufacturer means they're not replacing their fleet for a long time, because you really have changing features, not just from the alternative fuels side of the business, but you also have it with respect to ergonomics, to the technology that's being put into the vehicle. So you're constantly looking for the best value for the application. So in our case, we're a multi-OEM fleet, and with that comes some challenges. The challenge of training technicians, keeping them up to speed on the various products that we put in the field, and also training the end user on how to operate these vehicles safely. And you can see the list of the other vehicles. We've got some F-250s that have been converted with utility bodies, kind of like the picture I showed you earlier, and of course the Freightliner OEM M2 business chassis. So again, it's about collaborating, and it's really, it takes a lot of effort, not a lot of effort I should say, it takes a concerted effort in working with the OEMs, the upfitters, the end users, the management of the folks that have to get the work done. What our goal is to make sure that our in-house customers don't think about the type of fuel they're operating on. They think about how they're getting their job done in a safe and a productive manner, and the fuel is just a background. It shouldn't be an alternative fuel. It should be the fuel that is the fuel of choice for driving that vehicle. Last thing I mentioned about maintenance, it's so important that we get input from maintenance personnel. They're the ones that have to keep these things on the road. And I think, again, with that comes education, obviously training, but you'll be surprised how things are starting to shape up, especially with the computers that are in the vehicles now, with the OBD2 and all that. It's a different world today than it was, say, 10 or 15 years ago, where there was a lot of sensitivity to trying to get peak performance out of these natural gas vehicles and trying to tune them to run at a high performance. The other things that are very important to take into consideration are all the regulations that are out there. And I say all, it sounds like there's a lot, and there is, but those specifically relative to alternative fuels. You have NFPA 52, which oversees the design and the requirements as it relates to specifications for vehicles. You have the Compressed Gas Association, you have the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, and then of course you have the make sure that the OEMs and everybody that you're working with, obviously the OEMs are constantly looking at this and paying attention, but you have to be careful when you're working with aftermarket upfitters to make sure that they also have their eye on the ball. That's very important, because if you don't have safety, then you can undermine any marketing, any communication you might have made, inroads you might have made with clients or users by simply showing them a vehicle that can't be run on the road because it's unsafe. So that's really critical that you do the homework on that end. But the good news is a lot of people are out there, have done their homework, and if you get in touch with the right people, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and it's not as difficult as it might seem. But the point I'm trying to make here is don't overlook that. Make sure that if you're dealing with aftermarket upfitters, that you understand what your responsibilities are as it relates to safety. This just gives you an overview of where we have CNG across Southern California. And I know there's always this discussion about the infrastructure not being robust enough. And if you ask me, I tell you it isn't. But what I will tell you, that it is growing, and it is sufficient to get people into natural gas vehicles and driving those vehicles. And I think in time you're going to see that continue to develop. I see nothing but steady growth in this area, and it's been going on for a few years now. In the past, you've seen it where it's kind of starting to get some momentum, and then about 2-3 years in, it slows down. Next thing you know, it goes dormant. I don't see that going on this time around. And I think a lot of it is driven by the quality of the air that we breathe and the intent to try to lower the emissions. Here's a example of a future station that we're looking to build. And in our company, one of the advantages we have is that we have 24 stations on our property, which makes it very productive for our employees. They come in at night, they can plug in their vehicle, slow fill, and next morning they get in their vehicle and off they go with a full tank. That plays a big part. Fast fuel, however, is something that we do as well, and that's also important. You want to be able to go to a fueling station, and if you need to top off or you need some fuel, you want to be able to plug in and fuel up no different than you would on a gasoline or diesel vehicle. What I'd like to do right now is just show you a clip as closing, just to give you a sense of where we're headed, where things are going.
Energy security for the United States, once considered an impossible goal, is now within our reach with the abundant supplies of natural gas available today in North America. We've been using natural gas in our homes and businesses for heating, hot water, and cooking for more than 100 years. But natural gas can also be used to fuel vehicles. Compared to some other vehicle fuels, natural gas is clean, abundant, affordable, and American. Recent technological and economic developments are providing greater access to large reserves of natural gas under North American soil. Today, these reserves are projected to meet U.S. energy needs for generations to come. Natural gas vehicles, which are sometimes referred to as NGVs, have been around for decades, operating on roads around the world. NGVs are available in all vehicle classes, including passenger vehicles, transit and school buses, refuse, and heavy-duty trucks. NGV engines operate in a manner that is very similar to gasoline or diesel engines, except that natural gas combusts in gaseous form rather than as vapor. NGVs are available in two basic configurations: dedicated NGVs and bifuel NGVs. Dedicated NGVs run on one fuel only, compressed or liquefied natural gas. Biofuel NGVs have internal combustion engines that run on natural gas and gasoline. With biofuel vehicles, the two fuels are stored in separate tanks and the engine runs on one fuel at a time. Factory-built NGVs are available from various automotive manufacturers. Additional vehicles that are powered by compressed natural gas are also available through a conversion process. One of the benefits of NGVs is the price advantage that they offer over gasoline and diesel-fueled vehicles, which can be significant. Natural gas is less expensive than other vehicle fuels, and its price is less affected by the unpredictable changes in the world's oil market. As a result, drivers of natural gas vehicles can save 40 to 50% per gallon at the pump compared to gasoline and diesel. This price difference can result in significant fuel cost savings year after year. Large transit or trucking fleets switching to natural gas can save millions of dollars per year. In recognition of their environmental benefits, solo drivers of NGVs are allowed to use the HOV or carpool lanes in several states. Natural gas vehicles have a safety record similar to vehicles powered by other fuels. The fuel tanks or cylinders that hold the natural gas fuel on the vehicle feature robust designs and are engineered to provide years of reliable service. Natural gas is one of the cleanest alternative fuels today. NGVs produce fewer smog-forming pollutants compared to most diesel and gasoline vehicles on the road. Renewable natural gas, or biomethane, is an even greener fuel by offering reduced greenhouse gas emissions, which contribute to climate change. There are more than 15 million natural gas vehicles already in operation around the world today. These numbers can only continue to grow as more NGV options become available and consumers recognize that natural gas for vehicles is clean, abundant, affordable, and American.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for your attention. I really appreciate the time, and I look forward to hearing the rest of the speakers here, because there's a lot of knowledge on this panel that I think if you really are interested in helping promote this even further, you ought to take advantage of these folks that are here up here today. Thank you.